Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about HubSpot. If you're hustling in the trenches to build a business or bootstrapping one of your own, let's talk about an AI-powered tool that can lighten up your workload a bit. HubSpot's Campaign Assistant is a game changer for creating marketing campaigns at scale. It quickly turns your key selling points into a cohesive pitch, which helps you deliver knockout emails, ads, and landing pages in minutes. So let Campaign Assistant take care of the campaigns so you can get back to growing your business. Work smarter, not harder at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant.
Good morning, everyone. It is Monday, October 23rd. I'm Ben Berkley here with Sara Friedman, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. It wasn't long ago that headlines were declaring the death of the American chain restaurant. But in today's top story, we'll tell you why those obituaries were a little premature. Chain restaurants are back and growing fast, as brands like Texas Roadhouse, Outback Steakhouse, and Olive Garden can tell you. As they get their groove back, we'll tell you why. But first, we're going to run you through the stories making headlines today in the world of business and tech. The FCC voted to restore net neutrality regulations. Those are the open internet rules that prohibit broadband providers from blocking or slowing down services like Google or Netflix on their networks. Early 2024 is the soonest the updated rules can be enacted, and this has gotten pretty partisan over the years. And as that fight has turned more partisan, just note this may wind up kind of seesawing endlessly based on which political party has control of the Capitol at the time. Let's move on to Hollywood. Studios and the Actors Union are going to resume negotiations tomorrow after 100 days on strike. That happened fast. Amazon will begin testing Agility Robotics' bipedal digit robot and a possible move toward robot-powered fulfillment centers. It's still early days here. No jobs are going to be at risk for a good while. These robots from Agility are going to need to be pretty thoroughly tested and also show consistent productivity gains in those tests before Amazon goes all in on them. But this is a situation where Agility is one of the first companies that was part of Amazon's innovation fund, which is about $1 billion. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. We'll keep you up to date on that. But for now, let's talk about Jon Stewart. His Apple TV Plus show will not return for a third season. And the reason Stewart gave is pretty eyebrow-raising, that there was pushback from Apple executives over his coverage plans for China, Israel, and AI. A very interesting clash of content independence and the big tech, as big tech kind of moves into this space. Will this be how this works? We can only hope not, and people can still continue to make things that speak truth. Home prices. We'll talk about how bad they are in South Florida. They have reached a very weird new high. In Palm Beach last quarter, the average sale price topped $20 million, and the average price per square foot, which was more than $4,500, actually is 2.5 times more expensive than Manhattan. So this is a pretty great way to start the week with a reminder that housing sucks everywhere. Let's go on to Tyson, which has invested in Protix, a Dutch insect protein company. They're going to also help Protix build a U.S. factory where they can turn soldier flies into pet food for cats, birds, fish, and we're going to see a lot more insect protein content coming up. That it is seen as one way to more sustainably feed this planet. So while we talk about enticing foods, let's talk about one last thing what Frito-Lay is doing. They have mashed Cheetos and pretzels together into a product known as Cheetos Pretzels. It's exactly what you expect. Pretzels with, orange and, if we're talking flaming hot, red flavoring dust. For parent company PepsiCo, this is their latest gambit to expand a $21 billion snacking segment. And it doesn't seem like a bad bet. I think their consumer data found that 63% of Cheetos consumers also purchase pretzels. Also notable, 58% of the pretzel category's growth recently has come from flavored offerings. Also, are you going to bet against Cheetos? As a former teen who once couldn't put them down if I tried, I'm sure not. Okay, let's move on to our main story today, which is chain restaurants. This is one of those stories that I don't know if we would directly call it happy news. It is for me, though. Love a chain restaurant, and they are doing well. Sara, can you tell us more about the chain restaurant revival?
Yes, I am a fellow huge fan of the chain restaurant, so agreed, this is great news for all of us. It does appear that they are having somewhat of a comeback. So we're talking about the really nostalgic spots that you probably grew up going to in the 90s as a kid. Texas Roadhouse, for one, was named the fastest growing restaurant brand in the world in a brand finance report. It said there has been a 56% value increase in 2023. The Melting Pot, which was kind of a classic high school date night spot for fondue. The Melting Pot is giving 90 of its current restaurants a makeover and is looking to open 30 more locations. Outback Steakhouse is actually very huge in Brazil, which I did not know, and sales there jumped 61% in the first half of 2023. And good old Olive Garden saw sales grow 11.6% in the last quarter of 2023 and is having a big moment on TikTok right now with a new viral trend that involves people essentially seeing how many dishes they can knock back at the never-ending Pasta Bowl menu, which is pretty hilarious. But now the hashtag Olive Garden has amassed 1.8 billion views on TikTok. So it is having a little bit of a renaissance.
Well, I'm going to start us off with maybe half a plate for me in terms of the never-ending Pasta Bowl. That's the max. I really hope they let you take it home because I'm going to need that. But I guess the real question here is around why now? They were obviously really popular when we were growing up, and then they plummeted. And now this revival, like what's behind it?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because, as you said, they kind of went away when we kind of had our fast casual obsession. Everyone wanted a bowl at Chipotle, or on the other end of the spectrum, like a trendy tapas restaurant, something a little bit more fancy, not so cookie cutter as a chain. But I think a few factors are driving this revival. One being just inflation and the rising food costs happening right now. People want deals, they want a kids menu, they want prices that are locked in, and these bigger chains are able to more effectively keep costs down because as inflation pushes, egg prices up or ingredient prices up, the more chain restaurants you have, the more you can keep those prices down. And chains are more consistent. So as inflation is hitting all of our wallets, if you have kind of your one night a week where you want to go out and enjoy, it's just less risky to go somewhere reliable and not gamble on Yelp reviews and the fact that sometimes restaurants can be bad. And then you've wasted a night out and the money that goes along with that. And then lastly, there's just the nostalgia factor. I think we see this, with clothing trends and in media, like people like familiar things from their childhood. And I think especially like when the world is a little scary, there's something really comforting about going back to an old favorite.
I feel that. I mean, I think that second one you kind of pointed out there around like the consistency and not wanting to gamble on a bad meal. Like maybe this is more of a city experience at this point where like living in Los Angeles, the amount of times I've gone out to a restaurant that just like looked good, but then tasted like garbage. And then the bill comes and it's like, that is obscene for ordering just 2 entrees. And you're like, cool, that was $90. What just happened? Why would I do that when I can go to, an Applebee's, which I actually can't, they're not in LA. But, I can go to a chain and I know what I'm getting and I know the price will be fair. But I'd also, one other thing I just add here, they were really well set up for the modern world. Like these are places that have, for the delivery app world that we live in, they are really well positioned. They've had like the infrastructure in place to produce meals. Like Chili's to go was going on a long time before what we're looking at right now being the popular thing for restaurants, having a strong external operation. And so I think that that's something that has really probably benefited them greatly in this time. They're convenient. The parking lots are usually big, and a lack of hassle, I think, also seems to carry across industries. Because this doesn't, I guess, in the context of, say, other industries, this kind of makes sense. It feels like chains are having a renaissance throughout. I don't know if you've noticed that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of reporting just on kind of this chainification of everything, whether it's, Starbucks or retail stores or even hotels, chain hotels versus little B&Bs and boutique hotels. I think, as you said, there's just an element of it being easier. It's a safer bet. People know what they're getting. And again, with the cost of living as high as it is now, people just aren't as interested in taking a gamble. If you get your 1 week off of PTO, there's something comforting in staying in a hotel chain where you've stayed before and had a good experience rather than kind of risking it with a small boutique hotel. So I think chains are of late kind of taking over multiple industries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good note for us as we evolve our newsletter. Let's make sure that this feels like a chain experience through and through. Everyone knows exactly what they're getting and feels like they're getting a good value for their free read and free podcast. That's a whole other diversion that we don't need to go down. I think that actually is our time for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Ezra Trupiano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. We'll see you tomorrow.
Let me tell you about a show that I've been loving lately. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by the incredible John Lee Dumas. It's available now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. I'm a big fan of this podcast. It has energy, it has value, and it's all about learning about entrepreneurship. I was just listening to an episode the other day. JLD interviewed Jay Rogers, who was such a wealth of information. He kind of went into how entrepreneurship chooses you. You don't necessarily choose it, and that failure only happens when you stop trying to win. A lot of gems in this one, so I highly recommend checking out that particular episode along with the rest. So go listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts. Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late, since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.